The galaxy had grown used to silence after war. The Great Alien Council declared that silence as their own creation, the product of their long and brutal conquest. From one star to another, their fleets had traveled, burning cities, breaking armies, and silencing voices. No empire dared to rise. No race dared to resist. The Council believed they had achieved mastery of war itself. They told themselves this was destiny. They claimed no species could ever challenge them. They stood as rulers over hundreds of worlds, watching from their thrones of steel, while fleets of warships patrolled the skies. For them, war was no longer a threat. It was a weapon they alone controlled. Other races bowed their heads. They whispered in fear of the alien armadas that drifted across the stars like shadows. They remembered the destruction of their homes, the screams of their people, the endless fire. Every alien knew the truth. No force in the galaxy could resist. The Council's fleets were too many, too strong, too merciless. Yet one question never left their chambers. Where was humanity? In the records of conquest, humans appeared as nothing more than a minor species, fragile bodies weak compared to towering alien warriors, short lives compared to the ancient dynasties of other races. Their history spoke of violence, yes, but violence turned against themselves. They fought one another, building empires and destroying them, but never achieving more than survival. To the Council, humanity was unworthy of fear. Still, there were whispers, ancient signals traced back to the Sol system, reports from explorers who never returned, rumors of colonies that resisted destruction for far longer than expected. The Council laughed at such stories. What could humanity truly offer when even mighty empires had fallen? But then one day silence broke. A signal reached the far edges of the galaxy. Faint at first, a pulse in the darkness. Not the weak cry of a dying race, but something measured, something strong. It repeated in coded intervals, too precise to ignore. Scouts were sent. They vanished. Fleets were sent. They did not return. The Council mocked these failures. They said humans were like insects in the dark, striking once before being crushed. They told themselves the disappearances meant nothing. And yet fear grew in their voices. In secret halls, they admitted what none dared to say aloud. Something had changed. From the outer rim of space came the first glimpse. An alien patrol ship scanned the void, its sensors wide, its crew laughing at the thought of human resistance. But then the laughter fell silent. A shadow appeared against the stars. At first, they thought it was a station, some abandoned wreck. But no station moved like this. No wreck carried such weight. It emerged slowly, sliding out of the void as if the darkness itself had given birth to it. The human warship. It dwarfed the alien patrol. Its armor was black, swallowing light. Its surface alive with strange symbols glowing faintly like scars. Its engines burned not with flame but with a silent force that bent space around it. The patrol sent warnings. No response came. They aimed weapons. The warship did not fire. It simply drifted forward as if daring them to act. When the Alien Council received the report, they laughed again. One ship meant nothing. They had thousands. They had broken fleets greater than this before. And yet they could not stop listening to the report. Their eyes stayed locked on the image of that single black vessel. For there was something in its silence, something in its size, something in its presence that unsettled even the most arrogant. The aliens asked themselves a question they had never asked before. What if humanity had been silent for a reason? The patrol ship, bold with the Council's blessing, opened fire. Energy beams shot across the void, striking the black hull of the human vessel. For a moment, the patrol crew smiled, certain of victory, but then their smiles vanished. The beams vanished too, swallowed by shields no alien had ever seen. The human ship did not shudder. It did not move. It did not acknowledge the attack. The patrol ship fired again, and again, and again. Nothing. In their desperation, they opened a channel, demanding the human vessel surrender, demanding that it speak, demanding that it reveal who commanded it. The silence was worse than any reply, and then, slowly, the warship turned. Its massive guns moved into position, glowing faintly. One shot thundered across the void, a burst of energy so bright the alien patrol thought a star had exploded. When the light faded, their fleet was gone. Only wreckage remained, drifting silently through the darkness. That single battle was carried back by fragments of signal, fragments of screams. The Council received them in disbelief. Some claimed it was fake, a trick by rebels. Others swore it was truth. The human warship was real, and it was coming. Across the galaxy, the weak races whispered again, but no longer in fear of the Council. They whispered a new name, one that carried with it a mixture of hope and terror. Humanity. The Council gathered in silence, their laughter gone. Their arrogance remained, but now it was shaken. They had claimed mastery of war, yet before them stood a question they could no longer ignore. What if war had always belonged to humanity? And as the Council asked this question, scanners across distant stars began to detect the same shadow, the same presence, the same warship. It was no longer a rumor. It was no longer a story. It was a warning. The age of alien supremacy was about to end. The Council chamber glowed with cold light. Dozens of alien leaders sat in tall chairs that curved around a hollow sphere, where holograms of burning worlds flickered. Their voices carried pride, sharp and bitter, as they discussed the latest reports. They had heard the rumors of the human warship. They had seen fragments of recordings, flashes of black metal, and the wreckage of patrol fleets. Still, they told themselves the same words. It does not matter. It is one ship, a scaled general hissed. His teeth clattered as he spoke, a sound meant to intimidate lesser beings. One ship does not make a fleet. One ship cannot challenge the Council. The others nodded. In their minds, it was impossible that a small, fragile race could stand against the weight of centuries of conquest. The arrogance that had carried them through countless wars now blinded them. They ordered more fleets to the edge of the galaxy. Thousands of warships, tens of thousands of soldiers. To them, this was not a battle. It was a lesson. Humanity would be dragged into the light and broken, just as every other race had been broken. Still, when they spoke, there was unease in their tone. They remembered how the patrol fleet had been destroyed in a single strike. They remembered how their weapons had failed. But arrogance was a shield, and they hid behind it. Meanwhile, across their empire, the whispers grew louder. Races enslaved by the Council spoke in secret of humanity. They passed the name like fire from one to another, each whisper carrying more hope. They dreamed that perhaps the balance of power could change. Perhaps the chains that bound them would one day shatter. The Council did not care. To them, these whispers were noise, nothing more. They believed fear would keep their slaves silent, even if humanity had truly risen. As fleets assembled near the outer rim, alien commanders mocked the humans. Their broadcasts filled the void with cruel laughter. Do you hide in the dark, fragile ones? They jeered. Do you fear to face true masters of war? Their voices were proud, but the silence that answered unnerved them. No insult was returned. No warning was given. The human warship drifted in silence, its black hull reflecting nothing, its engines quiet as if it were more shadow than machine. Arrogance turned to anger. Alien captains sent endless messages, demanding the humans show themselves, demanding that they surrender, demanding that they kneel before the true rulers of the galaxy. Still, no voice came back. And then the humans moved. The warship advanced slowly, pushing into the middle of the alien fleets. Thousands of ships surrounded it, weapons locked, missiles primed. It should have been a death sentence. Yet the human vessel glided forward without fear, without hesitation. Alien commanders laughed again. See, they marched to their own destruction. They believe silence can frighten us? Soon they will know the price of challenging the Council. At the order, alien fleets opened fire. The darkness of space erupted into color. Beams of light, plasma, and missiles surged forward in endless streams. The void itself seemed to tremble. For long minutes, the alien armada poured their fury into the black warship. Explosions bloomed so bright that distant worlds mistook them for novas. When the smoke cleared, the laughter of alien commanders turned into silence. The human ship remained untouched. Its shields glowed faintly, pulsing with strange patterns. Energy absorbed, energy redirected. The alien fleet had fired with all its power, yet not a single mark showed on the hull. Fear began to eat at arrogance. Commanders barked orders louder, insisting more weapons, more ships, more firepower. They cannot hold forever, they cried. No ship can withstand this. But deep inside, doubt spread. Then the humans answered. A single beam erupted from the warship, brighter than any star, cutting through the alien formations. One alien battleship, then another vanished into dust. The beam did not stop. It carved through entire squadrons as if they were paper. Hundreds of alien ships died in an instant. The galaxy watched in shock. In secret, the enslaved races cheered. Their masters were not invincible. Their fleets could fall. Their arrogance could be shattered. On the battlefield, alien soldiers screamed. Their voices filled the comms. It is impossible. It is impossible. But the wreckage floating in silence gave the only answer. Still, the Council clung to arrogance. They broadcasted messages across the stars, insisting humanity was a threat that would soon be destroyed, insisting that the human warship was only a trick, a single miracle that could not be repeated. They did not know the truth. That one ship was not a miracle. It was a message. Humanity had stayed silent not because they were weak, but because they were patient. They had been watching, waiting, preparing. While the Council crushed other races, humanity had built something greater. They had built weapons not to enslave but to survive. They had forged war not as a throne but as a last defense. The alien Council did not yet understand this. They still laughed in their chambers, still told one another that victory was certain, still declared themselves supreme. But far beyond their walls, in the hearts of every species watching, arrogance no longer looked like strength. It looked like fear pretending to be power. The human warship continued its march through the stars. Silent, patient, unstoppable. And though the aliens spoke of their supremacy, every commander, every soldier, every slave knew the truth. The age of arrogance was cracking. Something far older, far stronger had arrived. Something called humanity. The void burned with wreckage. Broken alien warships drifted in silence, their glowing engines fading into cold darkness. For the first time in centuries, the Council's fleets had been wounded, but still the alien commanders did not accept the truth. It is only one strike, they told themselves. One attack does not win a war, so they regrouped. New fleets emerged from hyperspace, swelling the sky with thousands more ships. Their formations stretched across systems, each captain hungry to prove their power. To them, humanity's silence was still weakness. They believed if they crushed this warship, the legend of humans would vanish like smoke. The black vessel floated at the center of it all. It did not retreat. It did not speak. It simply turned its colossal frame, its cannons glowing faintly as if waiting. The alien admirals shouted across their networks, voices sharp with pride. Surround them. Seal every escape. This is where the humans end. In silence, the human ship advanced. The aliens fired first. Waves of missiles, beams of plasma, and torrents of energy cut through the void. The firestorm was endless. Whole sectors lit up as if a new sun had been born. The galaxy seemed to shake with the fury of their weapons. Inside alien command ships, officers celebrated too soon. They imagined the human vessel breaking apart, torn to fragments. They shouted victory before the smoke had cleared. But when the light faded, the truth was revealed. The warship was still there. Its shields shimmered faintly, rippling like water. The alien fire had done nothing. Not a single mark scarred the black armor. Silence filled the alien comms. Then voices turned to panic. This is not possible. Fire again. More weapons launched. More light filled the void. But the result was the same. The human warship absorbed it all, unmoved, and then it answered. Its guns roared to life, firing not in chaos but in precision. Each blast tore through alien formations with surgical accuracy. Whole squadrons were erased in seconds. Frigates crumbled. Carriers split apart. Battleships exploded into clouds of metal. The human ship did not waste energy. Every strike was chosen. Every strike was final. Alien soldiers screamed across the comms. They are cutting us apart. They see everything. The warship's drones were released next. Dark, fast, and silent machines that swarmed the battlefield. They slipped between alien ships, hacking systems, cutting engines, ripping through defenses. In moments, dozens of vessels were disabled, left drifting helplessly. The aliens fired blindly into the chaos, destroying their own ships in desperation. Discipline collapsed. Panic spread faster than commands. From the shadows of nearby planets, enslaved races watched in awe. They saw their masters, the ones who claimed to be eternal, falling like dust before the humans. Hope grew where none had lived before. Yet still the Council refused to believe. They broadcasted false victories across their empire. They told their people the humans were losing, that the warship was on the edge of collapse. But soldiers at the front knew the truth. Their screams filled the channels, raw and desperate. Thousands are gone. They are not breaking. We cannot stop them. The warship pressed forward, engines glowing with silent fire. Alien fleets tried to block its path, throwing themselves in waves, but each wave was crushed. It was not war anymore. It was slaughter. On the bridge of one alien flagship, an admiral watched in horror as his ships died around him. His claws shook as he whispered, "This cannot be. We are the masters of war. How do they fight like this?" No one answered him. The human vessel did not speak, but its silence was a voice stronger than any word. It said what every alien now feared. Humanity did not come to bargain. Humanity came to end wars. And yet the humans did not finish the battle with a final strike. They left survivors. Disabled ships drifted, crews broken but alive. It was deliberate. A message. The survivors carried that message back to the council. Their voices were broken, their faces pale with terror. "They did not kill us all," one alien captain whispered, trembling before his leaders. "They wanted us to return. They wanted us to tell you what we saw." The council chamber grew heavy with silence. None dared speak. Across the galaxy, whispers spread faster than light. The name of humanity was carried into slave camps, into dark corners of hidden worlds. It spread into the hearts of the oppressed, burning like a spark. Hope had returned to the galaxy. But with hope came fear. For if one human warship could destroy fleets, then what would happen when the rest of humanity appeared? The aliens had faced many enemies before. They had crushed empires and burned worlds. But none had fought like this. None had carried silence as a weapon. None had shown such precision, such patience, such power. The first clash had ended. And though the council tried to call it a victory, the galaxy knew the truth. It was only the beginning. The humans had finally stepped into the war, and the galaxy would never be the same. The battlefield lay in ruins. Wreckage floated like dark stars scattered across the void. Thousands of alien warships were gone, erased in silence. Only fragments remained, burning metal, drifting corpses, shattered machines. The human warship drifted through it all like a shadow. Its hull carried no scars. Its engines burned steady. Its guns glowed faintly as if still hungry. And then, as quietly as it had come, it vanished into the deep black, slipping back into hyperspace without a word. What it left behind was not only destruction, it left fear. The survivors who limped home carried stories no propaganda could erase. Their voices shook when they spoke. Their eyes were hollow, their words broken. "They did not fight like us," one commander whispered before the council. "They did not rush. They did not waste. Every shot was chosen. Every strike was final. They saw us as prey." The council tried to silence them. They called the survivors cowards, liars, failures, but whispers spread faster than commands. Soldiers heard them. Slaves heard them. Whole systems began to murmur the same name, humanity. The council declared emergency broadcasts, swearing that the humans had been defeated, that the threat was gone. They showed false images of wreckage, claiming it belonged to the human warship. They told their people to remain loyal, to keep faith in their supremacy. But lies did not erase fear. In the slave camps, prisoners lifted their heads for the first time in years. They whispered in the night that perhaps salvation had come. Mothers told their children of the shadow ship that broke fleets. Old men, beaten by decades of labor, spoke the word human like a prayer. Even in the homes of the council's own soldiers, fear grew. They had marched proudly to battle for centuries, believing themselves untouchable. Now they lay awake, imagining the black warship waiting in the dark. They wondered if the next patrol would return or if it too would vanish into silence. The fear reached the highest levels. In the grand chamber of the council, leaders argued bitterly. Their voices echoed, sharp and venomous. Some demanded the building of larger fleets, more weapons, more power. Others whispered that humanity should be avoided, left alone in the dark. A few dared to suggest peace, but their voices were drowned in laughter. "Peace with insects?" one overlord spat. "They are nothing compared to us. We will drown them in fire." But the fire was already burning against them. Across distant worlds, revolts began, small at first. A group of slaves striking at their guards, a village refusing to bow, a hidden signal sent across the stars. Each act carried courage, fed by the story of the human warship. If one ship could defy the masters, then so could they. The council struck back with violence. They burned villages, executed rebels, silenced entire colonies. But the fear of humanity made their cruelty weaker, not stronger. Every act of brutality only reminded the galaxy of how desperate they had become. Alien fleets tried to rally, moving in massive groups across the stars hunting for the human warship. Yet no matter how far they searched, the ship was never where they expected. It appeared without warning, struck with precision, and vanished again. One fleet commander described it with trembling words. It was like the darkness itself moved against us. We fired into the void, but the void fired back. The warship became legend. To some it was a phantom, to others a god. To all, it was terror. The enslaved races began to mark their walls with a single symbol, a circle broken by a single line, the shape of the human ship's silhouette. It became a sign of hope, a sign of rebellion. The council tried to erase it, but the more they erased, the more it spread. Even among the council's allies, cracks appeared. Governors of distant worlds whispered of switching sides, of joining humanity if they truly returned. Merchants stopped trading supplies to the fleets, fearing they would never come back. Soldiers deserted, vanishing into the shadows, muttering that they would rather face exile than face the humans again. The fear became unstoppable, and all the while, humanity said nothing. No declaration of war, no speeches, no threats, only silence. The silence itself was worse than fire. It forced the aliens to imagine what waited behind it. A fleet of hundreds? Thousands? A human empire rising in secret, stronger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Every alien mind carried the same image, a dark armada waiting beyond the stars. The council grew desperate. They gathered scientists, engineers, strategists, demanding weapons that could break human shields, weapons that could burn through impossible armor. But each attempt failed. They were fighting an enemy they did not understand, an enemy that had studied war in silence while the council grew fat with arrogance. The terror spread like a shadow across the galaxy. The proud rulers of war were now the hunted. Every world they ruled, every soldier they commanded, every ship they launched trembled with the same fear, and far away, hidden beyond their reach, humanity was watching. Watching as fear weakened their enemies, watching as slaves rose in courage, watching as the galaxy itself began to turn against its masters. The terror was no longer just in the stars. It was inside the hearts of the council. For even in their private thoughts, when no one could hear, they admitted a truth they had sworn never to speak. Perhaps war did not belong to them. Perhaps war belonged to humanity. The council chamber was restless. Shadows of flame danced on the walls, fed by the endless holograms of destroyed fleets. Reports poured in from every system. Fleets gone, colonies in revolt. Whispers of humanity spreading like wildfire. For the first time in centuries, the rulers of war felt powerless. Still, they clung to arrogance. They told themselves that one ship could not bring down empires. They ordered more fleets, built more weapons, sent more soldiers. Yet none returned with victory. Every battle ended the same way. The human warship appeared without warning. It tore through ships with impossible precision. It left survivors trembling, forced to return with stories of fear, and then it vanished again, slipping into the dark as if it had never been there. One alien admiral slammed his fist against the council table. "We cannot let them haunt us like ghosts. If they are only one ship, then we will burn it. If they are more, then we must find them before the galaxy turns against us." But even as he shouted, he knew the truth. The galaxy was already turning. Slaves rose in rebellion. Governors refused orders. Whole worlds stopped sending resources. Their empire, once unbreakable, was beginning to rot from within. And then, without warning, the silence broke. It was not a strike. It was not a weapon. It was a voice. The council chambers shook as a transmission filled the skies above every world. Across stars, across slave camps, across alien capitals, the same image appeared. The human warship. It floated in the void, black as shadow, glowing faintly with the scars of battle. Its guns were quiet, but its presence was enough to silence entire planets. Every creature in the galaxy stopped and stared, waiting. And then, for the first time, humanity spoke. The voice was calm, cold, steady. It carried no arrogance, no pride, no cruelty, only truth. "We are humanity." The words echoed through ships, through cities, through minds. The sound was not loud, but it felt heavy. like a weight pressing against the chest of every listener. "We did not come to rule you," the voice continued. "We did not come to enslave. We did not come to conquer." The council shifted uneasily in their seats. This was not the voice of weakness they had expected. It was the voice of something older, something that had suffered, something that had learned. "We came because you left us no choice," the human said. "You declared yourselves masters of war. You made war into your throne. You made war into chains." The silence that followed was unbearable. Every listener waited, their hearts beating fast. The human voice grew sharper. "You forgot what war truly is." Images filled the transmission. Human history, raw and violent. Cities burning, soldiers marching, civilizations rising and collapsing. Countless wars fought not against aliens, but against themselves. Humanity's past unfolded like an endless storm. "You thought war was power," the voice said. "For us, war was survival." The council's arrogance cracked. Their soldiers trembled. The enslaved wept, seeing not gods but equals who had suffered as they had suffered. The human voice carried on. "We do not seek war. But if you force it upon us, we will end it. We will end you. Remember the fleets you lost. Remember the silence you feared. That was only one ship." Gasps spread across the galaxy. One ship? If one vessel could break empires, what of many? The voice grew colder. "We are not here to destroy the galaxy. We are here to remind it. You claimed war as your throne, but war does not belong to you. War belongs to humanity." And then the transmission ended. Silence returned. But it was no longer the same silence the council once ruled over. It was heavy, sharp, and filled with a new truth. The enslaved races rose higher than before. They shouted the word human in defiance. They painted the symbol of the warship on walls, banners, and weapons. Whole planets rebelled openly, knowing they were no longer alone. The council tried to fight back. They sent fleets again and again. But every time the black ship returned, every time alien soldiers broke faster, every time the legend grew, fear turned into collapse. Systems fell out of the council's grasp. Allies abandoned them. The age of alien supremacy crumbled piece by piece, until only arrogance held it together, and yet the most terrifying truth remained unspoken. If humanity had revealed only one ship, how many more were hidden in the quiet corners of the galaxy? In slave camps, in rebel bases, in broken fleets, whispers turned to belief. "This is not the end," they said. "This is the beginning." The galaxy now lived with a shadow over it, a shadow not of fear but of reckoning. The rulers who had claimed mastery of war now stared into a darkness they could not control. And somewhere, far beyond their reach, the rest of humanity was waiting.